There you go.
Okay. Yeah, so basically why we wanted to meet the candidate for the mayor of Toronto is because we have issues, and the biggest issue for the campaign is housing. And we are part of the housing nexus. You have the government, you have the citizen, you have the homeowner, you have the corporation, you have the small landlord, and you have the tenant. So our goal is really to have everybody working together to find a solution. We are kind of tired about putting one group against the other. You know, landlord bad, tenants good, government is washing their hands. So there's a lot of frustration in our group. Our group is 7,000 strong across Ontario. We are federally registered. We are a nonprofit organization. We have been registered as a lobby group at Queen's Park. And we do...
Everything okay?
Hello?
Thank you, my dear.
Yeah. You wanna please mute yourself if you're not speaking? I'm gonna mute you.
Okay.
So we started when the pandemic started, and people were complaining because the LTB was closed. And we realized there is a big issue. Right now, the housing crisis is pushing rent up. Why the rent is going up? The main reason is a lack of supply. And the supply usually comes from big corporation, from the government, who has the means to build affordable housing, and small landlord, who are the majority. Actually, according to Stat Canada, 48% of landlord in Ontario are small, what you call mom and pop landlord. So we understand housing is mostly a provincial issue. Why we're trying to reach the candidate to the mayoral race is there are certain things they can do at their level, at the town level. First of all, is just to recognize that small landlords are not the big bad guys who are here to squeeze the tenants. Basically, you know, tone down a little bit the rhetoric, because we have a good and bad in each side. We have very bad landlord. We try to educate them, especially the small one. You know, what's their responsibility, what the law says. We don't give any legal advice, but we have a network of volunteer, paralegal, lawyers who give them good advice. And of course, we have also tenants that are having some issues. We don't deal directly with the tenant, but we try to support to find a resolution. So I already spoke with a few, we already spoke with different level of government. At the city level, we have really three asks. Ask number one is to recognize landlord, small landlord compared to big landlord are the bedrock of the housing stock here in Toronto. So we want the candidate to recognize that and to basically encourage us to talk together so we can have a solution. Our movement has attracted so many people, especially fourth generation Canadian, because I don't know if you're aware, people use real estate as a step in to go to the middle class. Myself, I have only 2 property, but I intend to hand it over to my kids who are born and raised here, who will be able to, you know, to have a step in. So when somebody gets an issue, especially non-payment of rent with a tenant, that drags them to our financial ruin, they feel not only discouraged, but they feel they are not getting help from anybody. So the city, if you were elected, can take a leadership on, you know, on the housing file. You know, support the small landlord. You know, make it, you know, create some type of mechanism where before things goes to court, which is a provincial issue, it can be resolved. You have several tools. You have the bylaw. you have the police, and we have a lot of complaint. I mean, this is not no longer you, but we have a lot of complaint from small landlords. Some of them English is their second or third language. They don't feel they are being protected. We have some who have been assaulted, who have been vandalized, we have been violented, and they didn't get help from the police, which always think it's a civil matter between a landlord and tenant. And I do know the criminal code applies on certain things. So basically, we want to open a dialogue. We are very powerful. What I'm saying, I'm not saying that to make ourselves in good luck, but when we started, we realized there are so many people who are suffering in silence. We are the only small organization that are receiving calls. We have a toll-free line where we help people over the phone, where we direct them to resources, where we try to encourage them. That's why we call ourselves solo, because the first instant when somebody has an issue is to call the MPP. The MPP never get involved in a legal dispute between the landlord and tenant, or they go to a paralegal, which is a business, and then they go to the LTB, which is a long process. Sometimes they call the city because they have some bylaw issue with their tenant, and usually they don't get the support they think, or if it becomes violence, they usually call the police. Sometimes they get the support, sometimes they don't get. So we are not going to ask you to do anything that's outside the city jurisdiction. What we're trying to do is to make all the candidates understand that we are part of the solution. We really want to help, and there are certain things that can be done at the city level that can encourage people. What's happening right now? Many small landlords are leaving the business. They are sick and tired. They are getting bankrupt. They think the system is stuck against them, so they are either leaving their property empty, willing to pay an empty tax, or they are just deciding not to be a landlord again. We get that all the time, and we've seen the campaign focusing on the rental housing crisis here in Toronto, and the only thing we see is a punitive measure. We're gonna stop this. We're gonna make sure the landlord won't be able to do this and that. I think that's not really the correct approach. We think they have to find a right balance where everybody's interest is taking into account. So within our circle, there is a lot of sympathy towards your candidacy, especially on the law and order, because some of the landlord really feel that people are getting away with murder. How can you stay in somebody's place for 7 months without paying rent and nothing can happen to you? So that's the reason why we are trying to open the dialogue. I know it's almost close to the to the finish line, but we are here to listen to you. What if you get elected? What do you think you can do for small landlord? How do you think the small landlord can fit in your agenda for affordable housing here in Toronto?
Okay. So thank you, Buba, and thank you for your service with the CBSA.
Yes.
I know that is an incredibly challenging job, and yes. Thank you to everyone that is on. If I could just ask if everyone could put their phones or devices on mute, because yes. I was hearing some typing a few times there, and I couldn't.
I'm going to mute them all.
I didn't hear.
Yeah, I'm going to mute everybody who is not.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody's muted.
Okay. So first off, let me just say that I'm very supportive of a lot of things that you said, in the sense that your organization is solution based.
Yes.
There is not enough of that, and you were right. I think one of the biggest issues is the culture of the environment, especially at City Hall, where the landlord is portrayed as greedy millionaires trying to take advantage of people that are, unable to afford. And, during my tenure as a police officer, I saw that a lot of issues concerning landlord and tenant were in fact very small, very local, not this I have 20, 30 units. A lot of times it is used as strictly as an affordability component to their lives. And so the moment there is any kind of interference with that, the affordability becomes challenging to the point where you now are in a situation where you are going to be losing your own place. So understanding that plays a huge segment in this discussion between landlord and tenant, I think is critical. The other thing that you said that I liked was you're not calling all tenants and landlords good or bad. You're saying most of the landlords are very good and most of the tenants are very good. But there's always going to be a percentage of landlords that aren't so good and also tenants that aren't so good. And so in the political discussions, when you address everything as either or, it unfortunately takes out the and you are trying to provide a solution to people to have an opportunity to stay, especially in the city of Toronto. But at the same token, you're putting a huge risk in those efforts. One of the things that I certainly would be advocating for is that the landlord and tenant tribunal is a quicker process. I really think at the end of the day, if those processes could be quicker, then you're talking about 30, 60 days. And you're right, when you have some people that can stay in there for months, the hardship is catastrophic. And as you say, a lot of people at the end of it all just say, I'm out of this business. I can't do this anymore. It is more of a detriment than it is anything else for them. So listening to all sides, hearing your sides objectively, and making sure that you're not coming in as the bad person before the discussion is really had, I think is key and critical. In law enforcement, you're right, there's only so much that the police can do. And in fact, the training is they're just there to preserve the peace. That's it. But it is a little bit different now, especially during and post-pandemic. Emotions are higher. We're starting to see behaviors become a little bit less law-abiding, and people are kind of pushing things a little bit harder. And so law enforcement does play a different role in it now because there are criminal acts that are happening, whether it's mischief to property or assaultive behavior or death threats and things along those lines. And it causes great worry because a lot of times people know where you live. And when you're hearing these kinds of things, you now feel like you're imprisoned because of a real bad relationship that has developed because of the fact that you entered into that landlord and tenant agreement, but the outcomes are negative. So with me, it is understanding that there has to be a better balance of fairness across the board. There has to be an understanding that starts out more objectively and not the landlord is wealthy and therefore always wrong. I have seen cases where that is not the case. I had opportunities of meeting professional tenants who will exploit the system. I've seen landlords as well. But the bottom line is this: the vast majority are good on both sides.
Yes.
When you encounter one that is not good, the system works against everyone in certain instances. But when you are a small landlord, it is financial hardship that is very, very hard. And I think that needs to be recognized. I'll be working very hard to speed up the process, and I'll be an advocate that process is sped up. And I think that if we can work towards that and these stories are told better, I think there's an opportunity to compel the right governments to take the appropriate action. I like the fact that you have included training components and resource availability. That is so key and critical because, the generations before you were solo and had to figure things out on their own. So having that unity and understanding that when laws change and understanding the impact that it has before it occurs really helps people become more informed as to what they can and cannot do, and gives them better decision-making processes with respect to what their next moves are. So I applaud you for that. And is there anything well, and again, the criminality piece, listen, I'm a former police chief. I worked in policing for 38 years. Criminal activity is just not going to be tolerated on either side.
Yeah.
And so making sure that these things are acted upon and not taken lightly, I think, is very important. And like I said, it does jeopardize people that own their own place and are renting out, because you can't just pick up and move.
Yeah.
And so recognizing that law enforcement has to be supportive with this type of environment, knowing that it's very difficult in how you would feel after one of these types of incidents. We have to have an understanding of exactly some of the other effects that these types of occurrences can have.
Yes, thank you for the kind word. That's exactly what we were expecting. For making the landlord and tenant board more responsive, that was our cry to the province for the last 2.5 years. If there is a way of finding out how to make a decision, whether for the landlord or for the tenant within a reasonable time. For us, a reasonable time is 30 days to maximum 60 days. People are willing to take a risk.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I know that I think during the pandemic at some point in time,
yes,
it became digitized. And I think the purpose was to speed up the processes, but for some reason it's bottlenecking. So let's figure out what that issue is, and then let's work collectively to see if we can resolve that. Especially if we have parties that are cooperative in this environment, because you're right, this is not about being hostile towards it. This is about being more solution-based, because the jeopardy is that the landlords in your environment could wind up losing their own equity, and that's your livelihood. That's you've invested your life in it, and you shouldn't have a system really put you in a situation where that kind of hardship is a commonality. So we do need to really support and have these discussions, and the conclusion is fairness. It's not picking sides. It's about being fair and accountable. So that's the direction that I'd like to move towards.
Unfortunately, Mark, the LTB is a provincial. I don't know how much say a mayor of Toronto can have over the province. We try to work with the province before and after the election to let them know. The small landlord are completely different than the corporate landlord. I have, if I'm renting my basement and I have a corporate landlord who has, I don't know, thousands of doors. If the corporate landlord, one or two people do not pay the rent at the end of the month, they can ride it out. They can, nobody's looking for that, but they can ride it out. It's only 1 or 2% of their income.
Yeah.
As a small landlord, if my tenant downstairs on my basement do not pay the rent for whatever reason, then I'm losing 100%. I still have to pay my mortgage.
I know.
I have to pay my property taxes, and I still have to pay. So one of the things we were trying to push is to make a difference between a small mom and pop landlord, 1 to 3 unit, and the big corporate landlord that are having differently. The other issue I want to bring to you guys is we small landlords are the one giving chance to people on a low income, people on social assistance, newcomer, people without a credit. If you go to apply at the corporate landlord with a big building, apply for rental, if you don't have a credit, they won't take you. If you don't have a steady income outside social services, they won't take you. So we are the one, basically, part of the solution.
So Buba, just so you know, you're preaching to the choir here.
Okay.
I totally get it. Okay, and there was there's a point in time when I lived in a basement apartment, and I know that the owners, it wasn't about being wealthy. They needed the income to help offset them to pay for their bills. So I totally understand there is a much stronger dependency of having a real good relationship. And you're right, the landlord, the small landlord, really is taking a chance and providing those opportunities. For everything that you said, I could not have gone into the larger industries because I couldn't afford it at the time. So you're right, it does provide more opportunities for a much larger range of people on certain incomes. And I can tell you at one point in time, I was considering renting the basement. I moved to a condo now. And I chickened out. I didn't, I looked at the risks and some of the situations that I saw when I was a police officer. And I just went, no, I will just have to work harder because I just can't run the risk. But again, if there was, and if we have the right narrative to say, look, if there's a 60-day process, then it might provide an opportunity for some people to afford a place to stay.
Yes.
And then that helps all of the social issues that we have as well. So again, from a municipal perspective, making sure that the right story is told, starting out by not stigmatizing the small landlords with the corporations.
Yes.
You don't have enough money to hire lawyers and create delays and all of these things. In fact, you're worried about next month's rents. So I recognize that hardship, and I'll make sure that the culture is proper so that people have an understanding that there are more stories to be told, and it's not a one-size-fits-all with the landlord and tenants in our city of Toronto. And the city of Toronto has over 3 million people. So I think if the mayor of the city is talking, I think that the province will kind of say, okay, well, this is a very large number of people. Maybe we should sit down and try to hash this thing out, especially when we have a group of people that aren't asking for favors, they're asking for fairness.
That's right. Well, I mean, I can't say more than that. And we are willing, we are ready to work if you at the individual level, as a collective, we cannot, bring people in. But I can tell you, there is a lot of sympathy for your candidacy. Some people are demanding to meet you. I don't know what your campaign can do from now on within the next few days. To reach out to our, our membership who owns property or live in Toronto, who are a voter, who may be, interested in either doing something, either in a contribution or, canvassing, or even to simply voting, because as you know, most people just don't vote. So
I know I need everybody to vote. My problem is if the less people that vote, the better the chance for Olivia Chow to win. It's as simple as that. So if you want to be part of the solution and get me in that seat, you have to vote for me. And if people sit home, she's going to win. So I want to make sure that if I have a message, it's to vote for me, number 84. And I know you have, so thank you so much, Booba. But spread that word, that would be great. And if you go on marksaundersfortoronto.ca, if you look in that website, you can see ways in which you can communicate with my team and provide any kind of support that you can, whether it's knocking on doors or spreading the word, or just sharing my website so people have a better idea of what I'm trying to do. I want our city to be safer so it can be healthier. You're right, we have to build more. Government has spent too much time talking. I'm a leader that is going to make sure that we actually deliver. So, so yeah, that's how you can certainly help.
Yeah, I mean, you're really you're in friendly territory. I'm telling you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will share this video. We will share to our membership, and at the end, everyone want to make their own decision.
Absolutely.
But I can tell you, there's a lot of sympathy for your candidacy, and we don't know how that's going to translate into actual vote or contribution. Where maybe we can work with your. Beside going to the website, because some of our membership are not really tech savvy, to be honest. We learn that the hard way when you tell them to go to a website.
Well, here's my start. If Olivia Chow wins, your property taxes are going to go up 25%. and there is no plan on public safety, and the police will be defunded. So it's that simple. And so the hardships that you have now will be multiplied. My plan is to not go above the rate of inflation. I will be supportive of the police, and I will be building, and I'll be building faster, because we have over 500,000 newcomers coming in here within the next 7 years. And I want to make sure that they have an opportunity to live the Canadian dream.
Yeah. So we're not going to hold you that long. I think you must be very busy. And the crowd, the solo member on, do you have any question, anything that we haven't reached out to ask to Mark?
Buba.
Yes, Lynn. Introduce yourself first, please.
Something?
Introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Lynn, and I am an assistant of Sophia. Sophia is the representative of Chinese small landlords, and we are member of the Solo. First of all, thank you so much for Mark Saunders coming to our meeting today. Most of us believe you are the best candidate, and you will be the great mayor of Toronto.
Thank you.
We are small landlords in Toronto, and we love Toronto. We want to do something for Toronto. As you know, we are the small landlords, and we're trying to help the city to resolve the housing problems. We have houses. We can rent out basements, extra rooms, different units, and condo units. But right now, we are treated unequally. So let's say if small landlords don't want to rent out our houses, rooms, condo units anymore, the city will have big problems for the housing. We want the landlords to be treated equally as tenants. We want you to protect us. Lots of small landlords lost money, physically assaulted by tenants, and facing the difficult time to resolve the problems between landlords and tenants due to the LTB, long waiting time for hearing, unequally treated, cash for case, and the mortgage interest going up a lot, and automatically renew after the lease agreement expires. And lots of small landlords are on the verge of bankruptcy. So now we have to represent the Chinese small landlords, we have questions. Let's see. The physical assault between landlords and tenants are more and more now. What is the role for the police at this kind of situation?
Yeah, no, listen, we should not tolerate any kind of crime. And people should be, the enforcement should be there when it comes to assaultive behavior. And I'm pretty sure that Chief Demke, who I know very well, would be and should be taking the appropriate action. So any kind of violence should not be tolerated, especially between landlords and tenants.
I just wondering, so if there's any plan you have regarding the landlords to be treated equally?
Yeah, no, well, no, I don't want the landlords to be treated equally, because small landlords are much different than the corporate landlords. What I need to do is make sure that the city government understands that, because right now, whenever they're talking, they say landlords, and everyone assumes that landlords are very rich and wealthy, and they're taking money off people that don't have money, and that's not the case. So as I said earlier, a lot of these cases with small landlords, they're doing it because they're just trying to stay ahead as well. And so the moment they're not receiving the rents, then they wind up jeopardizing their own investment, their own property. So I'm very supportive, and I think you had mentioned it, on making sure that I represent the city of Toronto, and especially all landlords and tenants, to speed up the process with the Landlord and Tenants Tribunal, to make sure that we try to minimize the timeframes, because they're far too long. And that's what's causing small landlords to leave. And that's not good, because we need people in places to stay in Toronto. And the moment we don't have those options, then we know it creates more hardship on the whole system of our city.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We are here to support you.
Thank you, Lynn. It was great talking to you today.
Any other one has any question that hasn't been addressed? And his time is limited. He's been very generous so far. Any question?
Hello, Buba.
Yes, Sophia.
Yes. Hello. First of all, I welcome Mark Saunders, and I think our group majority member is your supporter, because compared with NDP and the Liberal, we believe you are our mayor. So that's why we invite you come here to share our emotion. As small landlords, right now we are in a very, very difficult time, because the RTA, the Residential Tenancy Act, they towards the landlords, and also the LTB, you know, that's the big problem now. So the reason, first of all, everyone thinking it's COVID-19, but we know now culture changed. The tenants, before they enter our house, they are smiling, they see everything perfect, they have good reference. As soon as they move in our house, they change the face. They are the landlord, we are the slaver. Like, for example, I want to say, for my case, I have a very nice house. I have 5 nice room to rent, but this one of tenants, he don't pay. He don't pay for me 1.5 years now. And also he reported me go to the 3 department of the Toronto City, Toronto building, fire department, and the city enforcement office. So I got every month, every department come to me, and now they show me go to court. I'm like the sandwich in the middle. I'm the piece of tomato, Mark Saunders. And I'm miserable, and the city charged me 27 a day. I want to say, okay, I swear to my God, I collect my house, come back. I don't want to rent anymore. I'm very difficult. I need to work 16 hours to pay the mortgage. But whenever the police came, they will say, oh, you got a room in house. Why we come here? You got trouble here. And because we are the immigration, you know our face color, we are yellow. And they, even though we call police, the police doesn't listen to us. I want to say, this is the small case. Lots of landlords, they are miserable than me. So we want this city, look, we in the back home, we have wonderful life. And we come here because we come here, pursue the freedom, pursue the equality, pursue the respect. Our city today now, you know, how many people, they want to sell their house, go back to their back home. Even though me, I have this thinking how later on maybe. So we need to build up our Toronto. In Canada, Toronto is the great city, is our proud of the Canada in the world. We need to build our Toronto as a fantastic, beautiful city.
Yeah.
That's why we are your supporter. We want you win. You are our hope.
Thank you very much. And I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Again, I really want to fight to change the process.
Yes.
And I really do think if we can get this process working right, it will encourage more people to be involved, to give opportunities to good tenants. There are good tenants out there. There are also some bad ones, just like landlords. But we need to make sure that we do everything we can to create a better system. And if we do create a better system, it will open up more opportunities for success. And, you know, when you try to do something well-intended, but also to help you out just a little bit, and then the next thing you know, you're in a situation where you're concerned about losing your own house, that's never good. And that's a system that discourages people to even want to get involved. And, you know, Sophia, as I was saying earlier, at one point in time, I thought about it with my wife. And then I just went, no, I'm too afraid to do it, because the system I didn't think was a system that I felt that I would want to take a chance on. So, but you have my full support that, you know, the city government needs to understand that there are 2 stories involved with the Landlord and Tenant Act and the Landlord and Tenant Tribunal. And I will make sure, because I've seen it myself as a police officer, that, you know, all people want to have the right decisions. We're asking for fairness. No one is asking for an advantage. And I think when you're just asking for fairness, that's not asking too much. And I'll make sure that that narrative stays on the table.
Yes,
Yeah.
and not much people they learned the RTA and they want to get the benefit and get the advantage from the landlord. And now the catch for key already is the sentence in the LTB in the hearing court.
Yeah, she meant by cash for key. There is a situation happening right now, and this is not the city's fault. It's the way the law is done. Because the delay is so long, some tenants are asking to be paid huge amount of money in order to give the house back. Case in point, I get an assignment in the UK to work there for 1 year. So I rent my house. My assignment ends, I come back. I'm asking the tenant to get my house back. He said, no, that's his right. That's how the law is written. I have to go to the LTB and then wait until I get a decision in order to get my own house back. We have several cases like that. Or I cannot afford the house anymore. I have to pay. I have financial issue. I want to sell the house. So the tenant said, no, I'm not gonna, leave. So you have to pay me if you want to sell your house. So these are all little things that makes being a small landlord very discouraging in the province. But this is really above the city. And but there are certain things that the city can do. We hope you're going to be elected, and we have really specific, easy to implement suggestion that can help both the good landlord and good tenant, and keeping the peace.
Listen, anything that's going to create fairness, I will be fully supportive of, and you need to know that. Okay.
Exactly. Anybody else have any question? We have to let him go. We already spent more than enough.
Yeah.
So I guess not. So what are you gonna do? We're gonna share this video within our group, and we're gonna encourage people to go to the website. And at the end of the day, everyone will make their own decision who they're gonna vote for.
Okay. Thank you again. It's Mark Saunders, number 84 on the ballot. So
okay. Fun fact: when I went to vote, there's another Mark Saunders.
No, Lily Sanders.
Yeah, so I kicked the Sander first, and then I realized, oh wait, this is not the right Sander, so it can make people a little bit confused, especially you have 103 names. So yeah.
And then Mark, this morning we go to the Olivia Cho's office to try to peacefully talk to her, and she's not in the office.
Well, we did not organize a meeting like we did with Mark, but she will gonna hear from us. Is there anything else you wanna say, Mark, before we release you? And we would like to have somebody in your team that we can keep in touch, because I know you are busy.
Yes, I'll definitely have someone keep in touch with you, Bubala, for sure. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time and for all that you're doing. The 99.9% of the landlords and tenants are good. We have to make sure that those 1% are really taken care of. It's not fair for everybody else.
Exactly.
And you have my full support on trying to create a balance of fairness for everyone. And I thank you for what you're doing. You are helping dreams. Again, it was something that I needed at some point in my life. So I completely understand the impact that it has on small landlords. It's a much different story. And starting up this solo is a good start. It will only get better and bigger and more informative for sure. So thank you for setting up the meeting with me, and thank you for the work that you are doing as an agency. So
thank you. It's a teamwork, and we have fantastic volunteer. Nobody's getting paid, and I'm the head, but I don't take the credit. It's really a teamwork. Thank you again, and let's keep in touch. And,
thank you.
Share that with everybody.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy retirement.
Thank you.
Au revoir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Okay, you guys want to stay? Any comment? I think they're all gone. Okay, so I'm going to end up. Thank you.